The time is just gone 8:25 a.m. We continue with the show this morning, and it's time now to look at the Lindiwe Sisulu saga, where we learnt about the statement that the minister had made, talking about the constitution not being sacred and judges are not demigods. We discussed it briefly yesterday, and then developments took place where we heard about the presidency standing by the statement on Sisulu, saying that she apologized for her controversial opinion piece. And last night, we've seen this about turn where the tourism minister mentioned that President Cyril Ramaphosa was lying when he announced that she had agreed to apologize for her insulting comments about South African judges. So this is a story. It's a big story. It's become a political hot potato as well. And we joined on the line this morning by political analyst Professor Sipho Seepe. Professor Sipho, good morning to you. Welcome to the show. We appreciate your time.
Good morning.
Yes, clearly it is stunning in terms of what has been happening in the last 24 hours with regard to the tourism minister, Lindiwe Sisulu. The question about whether she apologized, she hasn't apologized. We've got the presidency saying one thing, she's saying something else. Just your thoughts, Professor Sipho?
Well, I think the first thing that we must accept is that when you have two statements that are contradictory, both of them cannot be right. It is also possible that both of them can be wrong. But what we know is that both cannot be right. So if one is right, then there is a lie that is actually being told. So that's the first thing that I want to put on the table. Then the second issue is also to understand from the president's side. You had a acting chief justice who almost has called for action to be taken against the minister, but also almost suggesting that even before that it would be very good for the minister to retract and withdraw what she had said about the black judges. And in the absence of that, the president felt, and also influenced by a lot of interventions by organizations like the foundations that we know, Ahmed Katada, etc., that she should retract or be fired, and organizations like CASAC and also some members of the ANC who are mostly beneficiaries of the status quo have actually called for her to be dismissed. And also some political leaders have also weighed in that it's time for her to be fired. So the president, with that pressure against him, felt that maybe the best thing that he could do before he acts is to have an audience with the minister, an audience which they had. But what emerged out of that is where we are today, because the president was keen to make sure that probably that this matter is behind his back, so that there might be focus on all other issues. But unfortunately, the minister had indicated that she stands by a statement, and she had repeatedly said so. So it leaves the president with an egg in his face. Effectively, what we have now is that the gloves are off. The minister has said, I stand by what I wrote. The ball is in your court. You can do what you want. You are the president. And from the president's side, he's also faced with a notion that if he doesn't act, he will actually be seen as a weak president. And we must also understand that these things and our media is not confined to the boundaries of South Africa. This is something that is going to be reported in the continent with SADC. So he's got his back against the wall to be a strong and a firm president. This notion of sitting on the fence. So he has to either bite the bullet to say, well, I cannot have somebody like this in my team, or secondly to say, I stand with as far as the issues that she's raised, but I do find it unfortunate that she abandoned all the judges in a statement. But what he has done is to seem to be apologizing on her behalf. an apology that she has actually not given.
Yes, I think it's very, very interesting, with your analysis, Professor Sipho, because for long now there have been huge question marks with regards to the president himself. And as you mentioned, sitting on the fence, some have called him even a lame duck president. And we see this open defiance now coming through from Minister Lindiwe Sisulu. And he's had to contend with a lot over a period of time, the factionalism within the ANC, and now we have this case of open defiance. And clearly, this has become another political hot potato for the ANC, for the government, and the president himself.
No. I think the president cannot have it both ways. You see, this notion of thinking that you can please all the people all the time or fool all the people all the time is not going to work. Somewhere you must take a stand, because if you don't stand for anything, you fall for anything. And here we see a president who wants to keep unity within the organization, and he is also aware that some members of his cabinet, like Gwede Mantashe, have almost intimated that the statement that the minister had written has not brought the ANC into disrepute. But you cannot ignore the fact that you have also another arm of the state. Collectively, the judges have taken a position that they found the statement to be unfortunate and inappropriate. So the president cannot ignore that. So that's why I'm saying right now he is faced with what you call a catch-22 situation. You do, you're damned. You don't, you're damned. So it's one of those things you call checkmate, that you can run away from responsibility from taking a position, but ultimately there'll come a crunch time. And right now the gloves are off. The ball is now in the president's corner to say, what are you going to do? The minister has actually thrown down the gauntlet.
Well, she certainly has, and some are now saying that she's basically launched her ANC presidential, but her ambitions to become the president of the country through this entire saga. Just your thoughts on that, Prof?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is an issue that the president is faced with, that if he acts on her,
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042 203 1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.